Cheryl Friedman. She's here teaching 6th grade. She took Michael Jones' position. So we're very happy to have her. She comes to us with a wealth of experience in middle school, social studies, obviously. So she was able to join in our first faculty meeting today. So hopefully that was a good experience for her.
And she has been in Car Rider Line. I've seen
She
her in
has
Car
been
Rider
in Car Rider
Line. So
Line.
if you're wondering who the new
What
face
was today?
is.
Was today an A-Day?
It was A-Day.
So she's in Car Rider Line on A-Day. The Car Rider Line and in the morning and the afternoon have both switched up at the semester mark. So you're seeing some different faces there. You're seeing me there every time that I'm actually on campus. We also, our Future City group, if you haven't heard, our Future City group, we had 2 groups go. One was a 6th grade group, and I think the other one was a combo 7th and 8th grade. I might be wrong about that. But the 6th grade group won the state Future City competition. Future City is a science, technology, engineering, and math group where they have to plan a city for the future and think about infrastructure and all the stuff and things that go with that. And so they won it at the state level, and they're going to DC in 3 weeks. And so that's a very exciting thing. This is the first year that we've had Future City. I always want to call it Second City, which is the comedian thing where all the SNL folks came from. So if I mess up and call it Second City, I really mean Future City, I promise. And then what else we have there? Shout outs, Dr. Basham.
Oh my gosh. So I think that this town hall is a shout out. She put me on the spot.
Sorry.
Our cheer team is going to a competition on Friday,
Friday,
a
yes.
middle school ISS competition. It's the 2nd annual one, so we're excited about that. And then hopefully our boys and girls basketball teams will be going to finals.
Yes,
We'll
next
start
week.
This week.
We
Yeah.
also have some band things coming up that are pretty exciting. One of our students, I want to say this correctly because I messed the spelling bee thing up, but she qualified for Allstate.
Yeah.
And it's a-
First chair, right?
Yeah,
Did I hear
first
that
chair.
correctly? First chair, which is huge. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah. She's a 7th grader.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we had two teachers that just went to IB training in Los Angeles, and while they were there, they sent our IB coordinator a note to just say, by the way, we have a stronger understanding of the stuff and things that we're supposed to do than everybody else that was in their cohort. And it was a set group of newbies. So that made our IB coordinator feel really good to know that she's doing a great job of supporting them. And for those of you who may not know this, she's actually split between our school and the other IB middle school. So for her to be able to support 2 staffs is amazing. And it's a really tricky thing to do. Both Dr. Basham and I have been in a situation where we've been split between schools, and it's really hard to meet everybody's needs in that role. But she's doing a spectacular job.
I would add that we just had a teacher, Miss Allison Blanton, who became nationally board certified in the past month, I think. So that's a huge undertaking.
And one that she chose to do on her own, and it's a rigorous process.
It is, it
Yeah.
really is. And so she passed with flying colors, so we congratulate her.
All right, anything else? Any other ones?
We're halfway done with the school year. So.
We are
Yes, so we're
officially
officially halfway done, which means I've made it so far, halfway through the school year, so that's amazing.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so this again is just a reminder who all is on our PTSO board. We have a lot of people that make things happen throughout the year. So if you're on the board, thank you so much. There's a lot of hours that go into all of the different activities that we do and supporting our staff. And if you're not on the board but would like to be, we have some new openings next year. So Billy and I are gonna tag team presidency next year, and then we're looking for a vice president. And this is ideally someone who is an incoming parent from, 6th grade, who can, help shadow a little bit and then take over the reins the following year. So that would be ideal. It doesn't have to be a 6th grade parent, so if you're a 7th grade parent or interested. We also have secretary, co-treasurer, because Sweet Caroline has been doing this for a long time and doesn't want to do it forever. So it would be to help, again, shadow her and then take over when she rolls off. We have a great opportunity for student events. This is like our fall social, Halloween party at the pit that our students love and that we can't have if we don't have somebody organizing it. So that's a pretty critical one too. Advertising, we all drive by all these signs on the fence, and it is the moneymaker of the school. I'll just be totally honest. That brings in a great amount of money. Debbie Mussolino has done that for several years. She's awesome at it. She has packages that are already planned out, and she's got an amazing system. So it's picking it up from her and continuing on. She's quick to respond, which I think is really helpful. She has to respond back to the businesses really quick. We already have a sign maker that makes all of our signs for us, so you don't have to worry about that. And you can do it from home, so you don't have to come to all the board meetings, you don't have to attend different things in person. She does it all behind the scenes, and she does a great job. So if that's something that someone might be interested in, we'd love to hear from you. And then co-chair of Showcasing the Arts, which is one big event that's coming up in March, where the entire school community is welcome to come and observe artwork that's been done, orchestra rehearsal or orchestra performances, band, chorus, things like that. So it's a really fun 2-night event at the school. We have food trucks come in, and we have raffle baskets, and they're pretty sweet. They are pretty sweet. I just saw Hornets courtside tickets.
Yes.
So it's stuff like
Just
that. It's insane, and it's like for a very small portion, $1, $20 for different baskets. We're not quite sure where we're going to place it this year, but the nice thing about that event is all the money that is earned that night goes back to our fine arts department, which often is not, there's no money from the district for a lot of the different things that they need. So last year, for instance, they needed a new tuba. We bought a tuba from that event. We're doing upkeep of all the orchestra equipments or all the orchestra instruments, the music that they have to purchase every year for all the events. So it helped things like that. So if you're interested in helping plan that showcasing, we'd love to have you. This is just a reminder of ways to stay in the know. So we've got that Linktree link at the bottom, which is lovely. We always post things on social media. So don't go to the website. Go to the school's website. Don't go to the PTSO website. Because all what you're really going to see there is our Facebook scroll. So we do Facebook, we do Instagram, and then we also have a TBSO or TBS PTSO Gmail account. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to email us there. All right. Just a couple events that are coming up in the spring. There is a flyer that's going around, and there's more on the back table. We are going to have, it's called an Internet Safety presentation from PTO Today, which is a great organization that we've joined. A lot of PTOs have joined this, and they're offering it free via Zoom. So it's a really great opportunity if you're looking at just internet safety in your home, internet safety at school, looking at what your kids are accessing, how often, and setting different parameters. So we thought that might be an interesting topic for parents, and there will be a Zoom link that goes out with that. I believe if it's not on the flyer, we will make sure that it gets passed around. So if that's something that you're interested in, we'll be hosting that. It's at 8 o'clock. Our next Spirit Night is at Culver's. My family's actually at Culver's right now. So we'll go again on the 15th. This seems to be like a regular occurrence for us. But that's the Spirit Night for February. And then we have the Showcasing the Arts event. So I've already mentioned that. We are not going to have a Spirit Night in March because we have food trucks coming on site in March. So that kind of takes the place of our Spirit Night. In April, a little plug for athletics. We have the whole month is dedicated to fundraising for athletics at Brawley School. So you're going to see additional links for donating money there. If your child participates in sports, even if they don't, you're welcome to contribute money to this fund. And again, all that money stays here within our athletic department. So it goes to fund uniforms. It goes to help fund upkeep of our fields. We're going to start to play soccer on that lower field below the parking lot. So different things like that where we really need school dollars to help contribute to that. So you'll see a big push in April for that fundraiser. We do have an 8th grade semi-formal coming up in April, and SGA is actually planning that out, so more to come on that. We'll have Staff Appreciation Week is always the first week in May, and then we'll have our end of year cheer collection where we give money back to staff at the end of the year. So those are just some upcoming events. Okay, so let's quickly talk about Canvas, and then we'll get to the meat of this meeting, which is all of the questions. So we've had a lot of questions and topic around how to access Canvas as a parent. It's very overwhelming. If you haven't done it yet, if you go on to our district's website, there is a gluttony of resources out there, like so much. It's very overwhelming. So we have pared this down to a really short 4-minute video. I found this video just the other day and wished I'd have found it 2 years ago when we started really using Canvas. So I'm just gonna play it because I think it has a lot of good information in there. And again, it's on our district's website under Canvas. But essentially, this is the learning management tool that we use if you're not familiar with it yet, or if you're an incoming parent and aren't used to using it yet. That includes all of your students' grades, upcoming assignments. It helps communicate with the teacher. You can email their teacher directly from Canvas. What I like is that I can change settings and preferences so I don't get notified for every single grade that comes in, because then I'm going to want to look. And then I'm going to go down this spiral of wondering why it is the grade that it is and having to follow up. So you can change the settings there too. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and play this real quick.
Meet Amy Pandison. Amy has 2 kids, Tucker and Jane. Tucker is in the 8th grade and loves world history. Jane is in the 3rd grade and enjoys science projects. Their school uses Canvas to facilitate student learning. Amy wants to be involved in her kids' education, not to do it for them, but to help them be successful and build confidence as learners. Amy wants to check their grades, view assignment due dates and the instructions, follow Amy and Tucker's calendars, and communicate easily with teachers. Amy hears about the Canvas parent app in an email from the school. Both kids' teachers use Canvas and want to make sure parents can easily stay connected. Amy searches for Canvas Parent in the App Store for her mobile device. After it downloads, Amy searches for her school district in the search bar. When she finds it, she then sees the option to sign in. Amy does not have her own Canvas account yet, so she selects Parents of a Canvas User, Create Account. She enters her name, her email address, and creates a password, but does not have a student pairing code. Tucker creates a pairing code from his account by opening his account settings from the global navigation bar. He selects Pair with Observer and gives that code to Amy. She can now see Tucker's classes and grades on the app's home screen. Jane is still in elementary school, so Amy gets her pairing code from Jane's teacher and easily adds it on the app. Now Jane is all set up with the Canvas Parent app as her sidekick in supporting her kids' education. To make sure she stays up to date on both kids' accounts, Jane sets up her alerts and notifications. On her phone or tablet, Amy selects Manage Students, and then selects Tucker. She sets her preferences on when and about what she would like Canvas to alert her. She does the same for Jane. As Amy finishes choosing her notification settings, Jane comes bounding into the house without the coat she was wearing when she left for school. On the app, Amy opens her inbox, selects Jane's class, and sends a quick message to Jane's teacher about the missing coat. That night, before sitting down to dinner, Amy checks Tucker's classes and grades. He's doing pretty well. She also checks the calendar and notices that Tucker has a test coming up in a few days, and then helps Tucker organize his notes and create a study plan after dinner. She notices in her alerts section an announcement about a field trip to the local museum for Tucker's world history class, and a request for volunteer parent chaperones. Amy sends a quick message through the Canvas inbox to volunteer as a chaperone. Amy glances at the calendar and notices that Jane has a science project coming up. She looks at the assignment and notices a list of supplies and instructions for how to submit the assignment. Amy sets a reminder to buy the supplies. That night, Jane sits at the computer with Amy and they make a plan for Jane's project. Later that week, Amy helps Jane finish the project and helps her submit before the due date. After a long week of extracurricular activities, Amy sees a notification on her Canvas parent app about a missing assignment in one of Tucker's classes. She reads the instructions posted on Canvas and asks Tucker how she can help him complete the assignment. That night, Amy sits with Tucker and helps him upload a picture to submit his assignment. Even though the assignment is still flagged as late and Tucker lost some points, it's still turned in for grading. Like Amy Pandison, you can also support your students' learning and know what's going on in their academic lives. You can download it for free in your app store. You can also log on to Canvas as an observer through your web browser. Also, check out the Canvas guides for observers in the Canvas community.
All right, so, poor Amy, that's like a full-time job to keep up with all those students. Especially all the extracurricular. When it got to that extracurricular part, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds familiar. We have a bunch of missing assignments late. So, and Mrs. Gillis is here to help with this too, but, oh, my clicker stopped working now. No, that's because I'm still on YouTube. There we go. So there's two different ways they mentioned that you can access this. I don't tend to use my computer, I tend to use my phone because I have all my other things on my phone. It has a very different look to it. So this is it using a web browser. You can see all the navigation is there on the left. And then there's upcoming assignments on your right. You actually see the different course modules there in the middle. So it does take a little bit of different navigation than you do have on your phone. So it just depends on your preference. Do those that use it, do you use it on the web browser? Raise your hand if you do. Yes. Mrs. Gillis, do you want to say anything about that? Why do you like that way?
I just feel like I get a better picture, and I can open some of the assignments that I can't on the app.
True. Yep, that's true.
And this is in your experience as a mom,
Mhm.
not
Yes.
as, yes, thank you.
Yes,
Just
my
her
mom
As a
experience.
mom, not the media center. Okay.
Same.
Good. That's a good point. And so this is what it looks like on your phone. So for those, who do you use it on your phone? Yeah, okay. And so this is what you'll see, iPhone versus Android. It's a much more limited, it's much limited view. And at the bottom, you'll see that's a little bit of your navigation tool at the bottom. So I can quickly see what my kids' grades are, but they fluctuate a lot. And what I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they get uploaded to PowerSchool nightly,
They should. If teachers have them to sync, then it should be nightly.
but it should be nightly.
I've found that doesn't always happen.
Okay.
So I actually
it may
have,
not drive all
right,
the time.
I actually have Canvas app on my phone for the grades.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I use that for. But if I want to see an assignment, I use the web browser.
Okay, that's good to know.
And there are days that Canvas and PowerSchool don't get along very well.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of parents that ask us, which is accurate, because they'll see that one is different than the other. Teachers say, go with Canvas. PowerSchool is the legal document, but as, you know, it's been said, it doesn't always communicate as it should nightly. So use Canvas as the more accurate picture. PowerSchool will update, it will catch up.
Yeah, so Canvas seems to be more real time. I can see as soon as my child's turned in an assignment, as soon as they've taken a test, it registers right there.
And this is mainly the case here at the Brawley School.
Say that
Versus-
again.
This is the case mostly because this is how the Brawley School teachers are encouraged to use it, because not every school
Right.
has their teachers do things the same way.
So I have a child in Woodland Heights Elementary, and we don't use Canvas in at Woodland Heights, right? I'm looking at you because you also do we? Okay, so if they do, I'm not using it, and I should be. But it's not as published, I feel like,
Correct.
as it is in middle school. So
Yes,
as
the
this school.
kids use Canvas more in fifth grade now, at Woodland Heights at least,
Okay.
than they have in the past. But for current grades, it's
Power
PowerSchool still.
Right, yes, okay.
So, I think like PJ said, it's, every school works it a little bit differently.
Okay, yeah.
And I feel like we're unique. Every teacher puts everything on Canvas.
Yes.
So if your
Not
child's
every school does
absent, you can go right to that page and see what they should have done that day.
Yeah, and that has been nice too, I'm glad you mentioned that. So if your child is absent, they can plug in those modules. I will say that, the staff is really quick in the mornings to upload their work, upload modules. So by 8:00, 8:30, my kid knows exactly what she needs to do for the day. So that's helpful. Billy, did you have something?
I have a question. I'm gonna use, one of Asher's, something that's in here right now, and your class comes. This is an example, because this happens often, because there is a difference between submitting something digital and submitting something paper-based, so there's kind of a lag there. So oftentimes, like, I'm looking here, and yesterday there was Anatomy Builder,
Yes,
but it shows it wasn't submitted.
yes,
And so oftentimes I'll go to him and I'm like, you didn't get that in, buddy, what's going on? And he'll be like, no, it's paper.
it
I
is.
know it's paper. So, and sometimes that paper stuff will sit out there for a while. Is there a way of knowing? Or do I just have to continue to ask those questions?
I would say continue to ask those questions. That particular assignment, yes, it was actually on paper, but they were supposed to take pictures of him and submit the pictures. But I will say, because they have another assignment that is on paper, and it is harder for teachers to keep up on the actual paper, so.
Yeah, because if we mark it in Canvas as an on-paper assignment, you wouldn't get that
Right.
message of it being missing.
Okay.
If our expectation is that we want them to submit a picture, then we're expecting a submission.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it would show missing.
Okay, so if it's been marked on paper, then I'm not going to see that that he's missed the submission.
Right. You'll just see it when he gets a grace for it.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
question. Any other questions about Canvas?
I wanted to add too, if you need a pairing code, I can generate pairing codes too. So you can just email me. I've also had parents come in with their computer and I've sat with them and done Canvas with them. I'm willing to do that as well. So anything that you need, just email me, and we can get you going on Canvas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One other quick thing, just from a teacher's perspective, when in doubt, the kids know how to access Canvas at all times. They use it all the time. So if you're unfamiliar, ask them to open up their iPad, have them log in, and you can see exactly what they see.
I would say that there's sometimes some confusion, and maybe one of the two of you can answer, if it's blank or we use a placeholder, as a 0. So do you guys care to maybe update parents on what that means?
And each grade level, I think, handles it a little bit differently, right? We have an automatic setup in Canvas, all of us do. So it's auto filled in. So if it's due today and you don't turn it in, it gets a 0.
Yep.
And so that's one piece of the puzzle. And then the other piece is we auto grade late penalty also.
Yes.
School-wide.
Yep.
So even if you've made an arrangement with your teacher, like, hey, I was out for 5 days and I know you said you were gonna give me extra time, they turn it in, we grade it, it's auto graded like that. So unless I'm so on it that day that I
Yeah.
remember to immediately take off the late points, sometimes it's like I go back to that email, oh right, I have to take those points off. Or I tell my students often, mark in the comments that we chatted and you were out for 5 days, and that's my reminder. Some teachers will use a placeholder as a reminder, and that's what Dr. Basham was referring to. Like you'll get like 5 points or a 0 in that spot as a reminder that you owe it still. And that's really by teacher. I don't know if that's a practice that you use.
We have the same thing in 6th grade. We have the same thing, it automatically fills in, and with 7th grade, it automatically fills the 0 if it's not turned in by the due date. And sometimes, and a lot of us also will put in missing for an assignment if they didn't turn it in. Even, I'm using it now as a reminder for students, even if it's not at that due date. If the student was in school and it was a classwork assignment and they didn't finish it, that next day, if it shows up as missing, it's a good reminder, hey, guess what? You need to get this done by the due date. It won't get the late penalty until it's past the due date. But again, Canvas automatically does that for us.
And I think it's, a gradual release of control also, as they get to 8th grade. We're doing less reminders of remember the due dates tomorrow because we're preparing them for high school.
Right.
Where there's a lot less hand-holding as I'm experiencing now.
And even 6th to 7th grade, like there were less, I feel like there was a little bit more grace with those late assignments. And 7th grade, no, you should know it by now, which they should, and she does. They do, they
Yeah,
learn
they
it
do.
pretty quickly. And I tend to not freak out. I have to continue to tell myself, like, slow the roll, like, just calm down. If each day things aren't showing or it doesn't look like, just wait till the end of the week. Now, but she has gotten into practice of checking every day. When she gets home, check all your modules every day. Just make sure nothing's missing. Make sure if you have something, it'll show also the due date. So if you know something's coming up on Thursday, but you're not gonna get home till Wednesday night at 9 because you have extracurricular, then let's like chug it out tonight. So it's just a good refresher every day that she goes in there.
And the kids can
Checks
tweak
that.
their notifications
Yes.
too, and we
Yes.
do that lots of times as a class group. Like, what do you wanna be notified of? Well, you don't wanna be notified every time your teacher creates a new assignment, probably not.
Yeah.
So let's toggle that one off.
Yeah.
But you might wanna know every time you get a grade on something, so it alerts you right away. Or, so they have got a lot of options in that. They can be reminded daily, they can be reminded weekly, they can be reminded as it happens. So, or, set alarms. So there's a lot, and there's to-do lists in
Yes.
Canvas also, so, like Ms. Collins said, have them open up their Canvas. Click on that to-do list and say, no, show me.
Yeah.
I wanna see it, I wanna see your viewpoint. I
And
think
another
that's
thing-
sometimes the most effective.
If, I'm sure you do it all the time. Canvas allows us, back in the day, teachers used to write notes on papers. We'll make comments in Canvas. Because a lot of times the kids will turn in assignments on Google Documents, and so we can add comments to those documents to say, okay, you had this part correct, this part you needed to add to. So that's a good line of communication.
Yeah, you do a good job of that, I will say that. I read those comments because it helps me as a parent to know what she's missing, so.
Oh, another thing is you'll get, sorry.
No, keep going.
No, just thinking, one of the things that Canvas also allows us on the teacher end to do is to send emails to parents when they're missing an assignment or when an assignment is coming up. So when you get paired, you get those notifications, you get those emails, so you're full in the know.
All right. So, that's it about Canvas. Any other questions, just let us know, and we can, like Mrs. Gillis said, she's happy to meet you here and pair things up. So, we're gonna move on to our Q&A discussion. Ready?
So I have a microphone just in case there are a lot of people, and that way I can pass the mic and have fun with it, but there are more of us, so we don't have to play my game.
Yeah.
But I do have some questions, and these are questions that some students came up with, and some questions that some folks came up with from the community and supplied to the PTSO. If you have additional questions, I do have some, note cards right here, and the only reason I asked this, I know it's a pretty small group, but sometimes you have questions, and you think about them while we're in the middle of talking, and this way you can write them down, and I was a person who always had my hand up forever, and then I would forget the question when I got called on. So I do have some note cards if you guys want some note cards. And, that way if it's not answerable right here in this moment, we can very easily at least answer it later. So here are some of these for you as well. And so we're gonna start. So, first question, there are two questions that are very similar, and these came from folks in the community. One was, what's on the horizon for capital improvements in the building and grounds? And is there any chance of cleaning up the Raleigh School roadside in the school, i.e. the old bus out front? Know this, it's on my radar, first of all, to do something about the bus, because I think people have the message at this point that we are in need of bus drivers.
We need bus drivers.
I don't think anybody new is gonna drive down that road, but Dr. Basham, I'll let you go ahead and take that one about capital improvements, and if there's anything on the horizon.
So I'm not aware of capital improvements that are on the horizon as far as beautification and cleaning up, but we have actually had conversations about multiple things, multiple ideas. One being, and this is an idea, I'm not saying this is something that's gonna happen for, 100% positively gonna happen, but we've talked about doing a summer camp where we have kids come and they learn some, skills as far as, you know, maybe digging holes for a fence or, working on a ramp or just projects like that. So the idea would be that we would have, parents and students come out, as well as staff, and, there would be certain projects that are put in place, and the students would come and help make the school beautiful, with the idea behind that being that, you know, they are our community, and so when they put a lot of work into something, they tend to own that and keep it nice.
I would add that we have these huge oak trees out here that are amazing, but they suck all the nutrients out of the grass. And so we recognize that when people drive by, we look like we're an abandoned building because the front of the building our front is over here in the parking lot. So we know that we've got some work to do this summer, and it's just a matter of figuring out what we can do that is sustainable. And so that's what we wanna do. We don't wanna use money to fix something that's not sustainable because grass isn't gonna cut it at this point.
Yeah, and this is an area that, we tend to get a lot of moisture, and so we've had some flooding here in the past, so we have to be careful about what we do out front, just to make sure that the interior of the building stays intact. So, there's a lot of those kind of nuances that we have to take into consideration, but we're definitely working on a plan, so.
PTSO has also mentioned that we need, and they're right, we do need some lights in the back of the building, specifically for game days when it's dark. Ms. Collins is nodding because she walks out there after basketball games in the wintertime. And so we are pursuing what that can look like and what that's going to cost. As far as building improvements, we're in a new building, so to speak, so I don't foresee having any capital improvements on that end. Know this, there was a very bad water leak over Christmas break. We had a water line burst that went into one of our heaters in the 7th grade hall over break, and when I came, there was standing water this thick all through the hallways, the ceiling tiles were all down, the insulation, all that. But our folks at the district office, our maintenance, our plumbing, our HVAC guys, they got it all fixed. They got it cleaned up in 2.5 hours. They helped me and Harry and Carson and Jacob. It was a mess. But everything was fine by the time kids got back, which is what was important. Okay, so tutoring. I got a question about whether or not we're able to offer tutoring. This is specifically about math. So let's let the students take this first. Do either of you or do any of your friends come in for tutoring, for instance?
Me personally, I don't know, but I do think that there's an intervention class that happens, like for math, I think every Thursday morning for 8th graders that I know of, but that's only if I think they're struggling. But I do think you could probably ask a teacher if you want tutoring.
Do you feel like that's something that goes pretty well if you ask a teacher for extra help?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's also like some, like Ms. Goldstein offers, like if you want help, you can get here earlier in the morning. Like I see some people, if we get out earlier in car line, some people go into the building and they can sit with her and talk about what they're struggling on. There's also a few classes with, well, just like she was talking in the morning. There's some for ELA and some for math. I'm not sure exactly what the dates are, but I know there are some kind of like intervention or tutoring sessions that you can go to.
Ms. Collins, do you offer tutoring?
No one has asked. One of the things that I have offered to the cheerleaders actually a while back was I opened up a study hall before school. I'm here every morning real early, so one of the things that I've offered to anybody who is ever interested is if they wanted to come before school started, if they can get dropped off, they can have a study hall with me and I'm there to help them if they need it. But to go with what Brixley was saying is that for 6th grade, Wednesdays is ELA interventions and Thursdays is math interventions. So we do provide extra help for the students who need extra help, and if parents reach out asking us for tutoring, we will, if we are able to, we will. If not, we'll steer you in the right direction of someone who would be willing to tutor.
Vicki, do you have a piggyback question on that?
Yeah, I do. Would you be open to doing peer tutoring, to giving some of our kids the opportunity to kind of have a leadership role?
Absolutely, absolutely. Peer tutoring is something that is a really good technique to use. I've not used it at this level. I don't know if we've used that in the past year. That's typically something we do at the high school level. That doesn't mean we can't do it here. And so we could very easily figure out a way to do that and get some teachers to identify some kiddos that would be really good tutors, and we can definitely set up a space where that can happen. It's a great idea.
Mrs. Perrine offers, like, if a kid is struggling, she'll say, why don't you meet me, can you meet me tomorrow at 8? And not just on the enrichment day, she'll do it like.
Yeah,
5 days a
whatever.
week.
Yeah.
I do believe that, the largest majority of our teachers will do what they can to help. Obviously, some have obligations, child care issues or whatever, but, most of our teachers are available and willing to do what they can. They'll figure it out if they're not available, during the, the morning hours or whatever. It may be after school, but we have fantastic teachers who want kids to succeed, so.
So, this is a good one for Dr. Fashion. Are there plans to open the courtyard for lunch? Why don't you first of all go ahead and
Tell a little bit about how the courtyard got shut down, so people understand that first.
Right. Well, I'm gonna even take it back a little further. So, we had a courtyard at Mount Morn that was used primarily for 8th graders, and it was like their rite of passage. So once you became an 8th grader, you got to go out there, contingent upon behavior, and they walked around like, all right, yeah, we're out here in the courtyard. And so it was a great way for them to, to feel like they've made it. We're 8th graders, and this is what we've been waiting for. So we moved into this building, and then as you all know, COVID happened. And so we started to allow any grade level to go out into the, outdoor eating area, which became very popular. So then, now all the kids want to go outside. At the beginning of this year, we did allow it. We allowed kids out there, and it was kind of hectic. There was a lot of trash left. There was a lot of, just loud behaviors, things like that. And so we closed it down, and we've been working with the kids in the inside cafeteria on appropriate behaviors. And just again, to kind of reiterate that, if you think about some of our kids, they lost a few years of schooling. So they weren't taught at certain points how to walk in hallways or how to have appropriate interior voices and things like that. So it really has become evident that they lost some of that. And so we've been working really hard. Our teachers have worked hard. We've done some advisory lessons on appropriate cafeteria behavior. And so, with all that being said, our students are doing much better with cleaning up and with the behaviors. And I'll just tell you, there were a couple students who were like, well, they would leave their cans and just trash around. And they honestly did not know it was their responsibility to pick that up. They thought that's the custodian's jobs. And so
We had some kids even say, well, that's the custodian's job. Yeah, we know
Yes.
that.
So,
We had conversations with those students about that.
and so, what you may not know is that we're short on bus drivers, we're down custodians. It's hard.
But even if we weren't, that's not their job.
Absolutely, of course.
Well,
Yes.
and then we had table washers, student table washers and floor cleaners. So then we also had to talk about the fact that they weren't there to clean up your garbage.
Right.
They were there
Right.
to just sanitize the table and
For
sweep
the next group.
accidental things.
Yeah.
But that anything that was your responsibility.
Correct, yes.
And it does, it extends beyond the lunchroom, because we see it at the basketball games. We have snacks and candies, and there was a child who spilled his entire container of Nerds during the game.
Yep.
With the candy going onto the field of play.
Yep.
And the response was, I should get a refund for that. And I was like, I have words that I'm not gonna use, and I don't work here. So be careful what words you wanna hear. As I then proceeded to clean up, and other students clean up after the games.
So we've had conversations about proper lunch etiquette and cleaning up after yourself in general, not just at lunch, as a result of some of these things that we've seen pop up. I will say that, I mean, some people say, you know, Dr. Moore, you're the principal, but Harry Howland, our lead custodian, is kind of like the guy in charge, especially when it comes to the cafeteria. And he came to me today and said, boss, I just want you to know the cafeteria's looking pretty good. Students are doing a great job now. We've taken this opportunity so that we can learn from this. I think that as a staff, we learned how bad it had gotten. You know, we expect kids to do a certain thing, but if we never have the conversations with the kids about those things, they don't know what our expectations are. So we were very explicit about those expectations with the semester change, and we're seeing a real shift in that. So, long story short, are there plans for us to go back?
There are plans. So right now, obviously, we're in the midst of winter, and so once the weather breaks, we are going to allow students to go outside. So
we also have a surprise that's coming for the 8th graders. We are working on a special place that will be just for 8th grade, and it will not be outside, because I'm kind of a believer that all kids deserve the ability to go outside, not just 8th graders. But we do want to give the 8th graders a special space, and we will unveil that special space when it is ready, which might be this year. We'll see. There are some garbage cans outside. There are, yes.
yes, I think there's at least 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
quite a
there's
number.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's plenty.
There's 5, Harry said.
5. This is Carrie Howland, our custodian, building engineer extraordinaire.
Just imagine the place.
Kids all love to go to the same trash can for some reason.
It is hilarious. Yes, it is. It's always the one that's full.
So this is for the students. Tell us about the clubs that we have here at DeBrawley School.
So there are like a lot of clubs, but like probably the most famous ones are like Math Count, Yearbook, Student Government. They mentioned Future City just won their competition. There's robotics, Inkers, and then for the people who like art, there's Art Club, Fashion Club that they just put in this year, and a lot more that they just put in this year. So probably next year, if your kid comes to the school, they're probably gonna have a lot of new options to come across.
And there's like many, like if you can be interested in like many things, there'll be a lot of clubs that people can join, and it's just a full opportunity of everything you could possibly do. And there's also a book club.
What kind of book club?
Battle of the Books.
Battle of the Book
Thank
Club.
We also, you know, last year we had a student that came to us with the idea of wanting to knit. And so she was like, can I start a knitting club? And we were like, yeah. So she found a teacher sponsor and they started a knitting club. So we always encourage kids that if you have an interest in something and we don't currently have a club that fulfills that interest, then let us know and we'll work to make it happen.
One more club, knitting club.
So that was a question about clubs, but tell us how somebody can actually be part of SGA.
So, you want to say?
Sure. So, Ms. Faustino handed out forms in our information meeting. So there is a form that you have to fill out. You have to have at least B's in your classes by the time that we have to turn in the form. We have a certain amount of time to turn in the form. I think it was 2 weeks. About like 2 weeks to turn into the form. And there were questions on there about how we could help the school, what ideas did we have for the school, and like what could we do to improve the school. There's questions, so we answered them in a way that we thought was true. And so then we turned it in by the urgent deadline, and then Ms. Faustino checked to see what our answers were and see if she liked them and see if she could like enjoy and do the different ideas, and so that's how we got into the SGA club.
They also had to have teacher recommendations.
Yes,
I mean,
teacher
teacher
recommendations, yeah, so I do read them, but other teachers also give input and, you know, we're really looking for students who are representative of, you know, our IB traits and who wanna do great things with us and I know there are some other clubs that also have an actual application process. So, you know, just showing that for a lot of them that you're really committed and you're really interested in doing that, and it's really part of it.
I would add also that some of our clubs, they have competitions, and so there is a cut number, that they, you know, they can only have a certain number of students in that club. So, you know, if you are a parent of a child who doesn't get selected to be in one club or two clubs, like, encourage them to, again, try other clubs, or again, bring an interest to us, because we want kids to be involved. We just unfortunately can't, you know, we can't allow every student to be on every club, so.
Okay, so this question is for parents and for students. So tell us about the homework load. I imagine this question is somebody who's thinking about coming to the Raleigh School, a current fifth grader, getting ready to be sixth grade. What does homework look like when you have an 8A, B-Day schedule with 90-minute blocks? Let's go from the parent perspective first. What do you see your kids doing at home?
Homework.
For the most part, it's finishing up some assignments they haven't finished in school, and then they might have a worksheet occasionally, and then some projects.
And what
You know,
grade?
Maybe one.
Sixth grade, seventh grade? 'Cause
So sixth grade, it was more than fifth grade, it was a big jump, but I haven't seen a big change from sixth grade to seventh grade.
That makes
Either
sense.
that or she's getting more done with school.
Okay. What about your child's experience?
I'd say the same, yeah. So I think it was coming in as a sixth grader, you're learning a whole new system, right, exactly. And trying to I think it was more time management. Now she seems to have gotten that down, and she seems to be accomplishing more in those 90-minute blocks. So I really don't see a lot of homework. It's the stuff that they didn't finish in class, or it's prepping for an exam or test that's coming up. That's what I see, so we're studying.
Okay. Girls?
Yeah, so usually most of our teachers try not to give you homework. I think the only homework that you would ever have in a class is like a worksheet or something you didn't finish in class, or like summative projects. And then that's kind of the only homework you would get. It really is just time management.
Now, in math, so we do have practice problems. The teachers give us about 5 to 10 minutes in class at the very end of class to finish it. But sometimes they give it to us walking out the door because they want us to have extra practice. So most of my homework, I would probably say, is in math, with all the practice. Because of our 8A, B-Day schedule, we have to fit all of it in. But then, just like her, there's not really a lot of homework unless you don't finish something in
How
class.
much time do you probably spend on a math homework assignment?
A math homework assignment, well, it kind of varies because it matters how much time you spend on it in class and if you focus, and also if you kind of struggle with math. But for me, it's about 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
I would say that, in the past, we've had parents on both sides. Some parents say, you know, my kid doesn't come home with homework, and that's concerning. I want them to have I want them to have work. And so, and then you have the opposite of that, where parents are like, my kid's involved in so much, we can't handle the homework load. We really do try to work to have a good balance. The classroom is really where the learning is going to take place, because they have really good conversations about the content, and we say that things are on Canvas, but when you take that and you're having lots of classroom discussion, that's where that learning happens. And I'll let you guys kind of get more into that, but students are not slighted because they don't have homework. They get the rigor, they get a lot of good content.
So we've had that debate in my house where my husband's like, well, he should have more homework. And I'm like, well, let's open up Canvas and let him show you all the work that he has. And then as he looks at that and realizes
talks about is being balanced. And a balanced life does have non-academic value. You wanna have downtime, you wanna be able to just be a kid. And so if you use your time wisely in class, you usually don't end up with a lot of homework. And one of the other things that we try very hard to do in the classroom is we try to allow for cooperative learning. And you can't really do cooperative learning as homework. So that's why we try to do the bulk of the learning in the 90 minutes. And coming from a school where I only had 60 minutes to teach my lesson, 90 minutes is heaven. Even though I see the kids every other day, it's still, I get so much done and it's amazing. So I try, if I can avoid it, I don't send homework home.
So one of my favorite quotes is a Mark Twain quote: "I never let my schooling interfere with my education." And I think that even though we might not all be aware of that quote, I think a lot of people here in this school understand that mantra and understand that we learn from our experiences, not just from sitting in our class. So that's something I think that is a unique perspective.
I would add, I've heard a couple people say the word worksheet, and I for one hate the word worksheet. You know, it kind of has a negative connotation to it, but, you know, there is a place for worksheets from time to time, but that is not the majority of what our students work on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So one more thing, just like for students now, like since there is an A-Day, B-Day schedule, having your homework done for A-Day on the A-Day night done, and then you won't have your A-Day homework for B-Day homework, it's just more helpful than having an overload.
So doing the homework on the day it's assigned rather than the day that it's due, or the night before it's due, is
Yeah.
always better. Yes, I agree.
And it's fresh in your minds.
Yeah, and I will say too, that is so important, that is an important habit to instill in students while they're in middle school, because that becomes even more important when they move on to high school, if they're in that A-Day, B-Day environment, because that gets harder to navigate if they haven't already built those good habits. And those who have children at the high school, you understand that, yes.
I would say that's probably one of the biggest areas that we see kids who are struggling, because they are on an A-Day, B-Day schedule, they have A classes. So that is different from traditional schools. And so kids who come in and haven't quite figured out their way of doing things, like they've offered some good suggestions. Sometimes kids will wait and they'll try to do that, and then they might have classwork that they're trying to finish up, and so they start to struggle and get behind. And so I think that it is a good practice for kids coming in right off the bat to work on getting their work done, like they said, the day that it's assigned, and not waiting until later on. That would be probably one of the biggest tips that I would give for any incoming.
So I
And because you can get backed up really easily,
Mhm.
so especially for 8th grade where we're trying to prepare them for high school, and that time management and stamina and efficiency and all of those things, and if you don't go finish that work that day, that A-Day, and then you come in next A-Day on Wednesday and I've given you more work and you didn't finish the other work, and it's building, especially math too, you know, it's building, then you're just drowning, and then it's very hard to catch up, and then it's, you know, learning to figure out, well, now what do I do first? Now I don't even know, and a lot of kids will give up at that point. So, definitely a good practice to do the work from that day on that day, if at all possible.
And one thing that I've found, and I have a very active extracurricular in my household between my two children. And my 8th grader who is here does after-school cheer. She does extracurricular cheer. She is basically busy 5 days a week. And we travel on the weekends. So on Sunday night, she and I will sit and say, all right, what's our week look like? And then we go through every night of the week. We said, all right, you've got practice till 5 o'clock on Monday, you've got a game on Wednesday, you've got practice on Tuesday night. Like, we just go through every single day of the week, and then she sits there and mentally thinks, all right, well, that one's a late night, I'm not getting anything done on that night. nothing's happening except eating dinner. And then juggles her schedule that way, just basing off, like, I know I'm gonna have a crazy week. I know I'm on the road. And we see that actually really a lot with our students here. Like, we have some really accomplished kids here, which is amazing, because they know how to, they've learned how to do that juggle.
And I think what you're talking about is something that we have been talking about, like staff, that we need to start articulating a little bit better. So I don't know how many of you have been involved in scouting when your kids are little, but when my boys were little and they went to scouts, they start right there and then and say, the only way your child is gonna be successful in this is if you guys are all in as a family. We have found that in order for kids to be able to navigate through this, it needs to be a family choice. And I think that speaks a lot to what happens, not just at the Brawley School, but I think all schools in general, that sitting down, like, I didn't have the skill set when I was in middle school to go through my week like that. But it took my mom doing that with me that gave me the skill to be able to do it with my sons. I think she was far better at it than I am. But I think that speaks volumes that you're doing that. And I see several nods, like many of you are probably doing the same things. And eventually that will go away and they'll be able to figure that on their own.
My high schooler doesn't, she's on her own. She's totally on her own.
Okay, so we are at 7 o'clock. The last question was about iPads. We have iPads. How long do we have them, Dana?
4 years.
4 years we have iPads. That's not a us decision, that's a district decision. They wanted to know how long we're stuck with them, so.
4 years.
We're live streaming this.
So that's what we have, and honestly, we're thankful that we have something, because there are schools where we don't have things that we can pass out. So we need to be thankful for what we have. They're light, right? They're not heavy, so let's think about the good things about them.
We don't have 8 textbooks for 8
They
classes.
don't have heavy backpacks. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. So are there any other questions from the group? I don't know that we have to have the
We do,
cases
I
for 4 years
asked.
as well.
Yes. So,
Okay.
yes, we do.
Okay.
For insurance purposes, they said that's the case that the company said that we had to have on there. No.
Are there any other questions?
I don't have a question, but from a teacher's perspective, I am so incredibly grateful for parents who are supportive and the fact that you guys are all willing to come here. The saying, it takes a village to raise a child, is true. And we don't live in a bubble, so the fact that you guys are here and willing to come and support your student and work with us, that makes the battle so much easier, and I thank you.
Well, we feel the same about you, because this has been a long day for our staff. They've not left. I can attest to that. They did not leave the building. So, it's been a long day. It's probably been a 13-hour day for them, so we appreciate it too. You don't have to do this. We haven't done it in the past, but I've had a lot of good comments and feedback that knowing that this happens quarterly, this type of discussion is really important.
And this is the first time that we've recorded it. We wanted to record it specifically because we were doing the Q&A, because we're in the middle of the enrollment season for our upcoming 6th graders. We probably won't continue to record them because I'd rather have the turnout, but we did want to record this one so that we could capture those questions and those answers.
Can I add something?
Yes.
For 6th grade. It is a big change from 5th grade to 6th grade, because in elementary school, they're not, like 5th grade, they got no homework. So from them getting no homework to like, I have a math worksheet or whatever, and the worksheets are fine, like math, I feel like should be, like, you need that skill of writing with a pencil and a paper, like, we can't all just text on our phone all day long, like, so, like, that's fine, but I feel like it's a big jump from going from no homework to work that has to be completed or homework, somewhat, so I think that is a big transition.
I agree, and so when my younger son went from elementary school to Northview, which is now Oakwood, the IB school that's in Statesville, I can remember he would get so frustrated when he had homework. And he would say, I hate IB. IB's hard. And I said, Tommy, this isn't IB, this is middle school. So, and so for those of us who have gone through this switch, even with other schools, maybe another middle school, or we taught in an elementary school, for instance, we know that this is just the jump from 5th to 6th grade. And so even though there are some things that we're doing that do make it a little trickier, like an 8 day schedule and the 90 minutes of slots of time, and having all of our classes be an equal amount of time throughout the course of the day. Those are different, but having homework is a middle school concept.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the schedule is great, I think the 8 PD is great, I think the class lengths are great, like, I can't say enough about it, like, I think it's great. But just be prepared if you're coming into sixth grade anywhere, you're gonna have more than what you're used to, going to elementary school, having no homework.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you.
it's not, I don't think it's just the roles, it's gonna be whatever school.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I would say also, I've worked in, several different schools, and I think there are great teachers out everywhere. I think that we have amazing teachers in our building, who are very helpful. They're always here. If you have questions or concerns, they're always willing to answer questions and work with you, work with your child. The same is true for myself and Dr. Moyer. If you guys have questions, we're here to answer. We are busy, I will say that, we're busy. We run around sometimes and we don't leave for 13 hours, but we may not answer your question that moment, but we will answer your question.
And if you email us to make an appointment or call us to make an appointment, we will meet with you. It is hard when folks show up at our campus to meet with us right there and then. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is hard. But if you set up an appointment to chat with us, we're happy to accommodate you.
And final thought of mine is, this is Mr. Perry. We've talked a little bit about him this evening. He is our lead custodian, but honestly, we say so much about our staff members. He's really more than
Wave.
He really is a mentor to so many of our students. Kids come up to. Yes. So everybody in this building counts, and they influence your child, and your child influences us as well. We are all here for them.
We have the group